Okay, welcome back to Tina Schmidt's Animal Drawing Workshop, and today we're going to do a wildebeest in this segment, and I'm going to make a wildebeest running, and it'll be going that direction. So I have my camera here set up right in front of my nose, and we'll see what we can do. So the first thing I do when I approach the drawing of the animal is I really look for some kind of a top line or an action line. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. I probably have to get it a little closer. There we go. And what I'm doing now is just sort of coming along with an armature or an outline, not an outline, but a kind of beginning point for constructing this form and anatomy of this animal. So the first thing I do is start to lay in some very basic shapes. I'm not worried about the shapes being perfect right now. It's really just trying to grab the initial idea of this animal. And there are many different kinds of wildebeests in Africa. I happen to think that they're just such an incredible animal because they're so wild looking and so primitive looking. So right now, and you're going to find the black wildebeest, and they have all kinds of different ones. We're doing the black wildebeest that actually isn't really any different color. They just seem to be more charcoaly than some of the others, but the other factor is that they also have a white tail, which is kind of strange. Be called black wildebeest. Big shoulders, big, round, thick neck for these guys, and I'm thinking a lot of the anatomy. And even though you might not see it in this first stage, because right now I'm just sort of filling out some of the crude form, get back out there a little bit, and then you can see the whole thing. Okay. What I think is helpful is to first get the armature. And the armature basically is sort of like a skeletal frame or kind of a wire frame of the proportions and where you're going to hang the rest of the anatomy on this animal. So as I start working in some of the legs and the chest, I don't really fill them out yet. I'm really just kind of looking for the proportion, the dynamics, the movement of this animal. Okay, then I'll fill it out and add in all the components of the muscles later. Wildebeest run a lot like horses. They have the same footfalls as a horse. So we're going to find probably in another motion, when I do motion studies, we'll explain that a little bit more in depth. But right now, what I'm doing is just sort of finding the wireframe of the animal. This is sort of going to be just the beginnings of his movement and his action and his proportion. Okay, so there's the wildebeest, very leggy animal, thick heads, big heads, and as I start to now go on to my next pass, this is my first pass. I find the proportion and the armature in this pass, and I come back up here, and it doesn't matter whether you start with the head or start with the tail. It's wherever the inspiration hits you. Okay, so now I'm coming back up to the head to work the forms a little bit. And the forms are going to be things like building out the head shape a little more accurately, working with the next forms, which are, the muscles on the neck and how they come out. And this particular animal, this type of wildebeest, has a very bristly mane. So we get that ear in, and we're going to stand that mane up just the way nature has it. It's very bristly. Okay, like that. So I come in now. The wildebeest eye is placed extremely high on the head, in the upper at 1/5 to 1/4, very high. This gives them, when they're grazing, the capability to watch for predators in the tall grass, they're able to, or the low grass, they're able to see while they're eating it because the eyes are placed as high on the head as possible. Okay? So let me get a little close up there. You might be able to see how I'm working that head a little. Now I've stabilized my camera, but the problem is it's not going to be as easy to focus and on some of the more important things as my handheld. So we'll try it this way. Okay, so we're going to open that nose a little bit. And there's the molars, there's the jaw coming under for the beard. Okay, so I'm working some of the forms now and also some of the subforms, which are smaller forms. Okay. And then I'm going to come across and begin to flush this thing out just a little more. There's the scapula, which is the shoulder blade. It comes down, meets with the humerus, and this landmark point right here is the humerus bone that sticks out the front. And I always make a point of mentioning these bones because this is where a plane change occurs, or a change of direction in the form. Okay? There's the sternum coming through, drawing through. Okay, so coming down here now, we've got the scapula, the tricep, which connects from the lower part of the underside of the scapula over to the ulna bone, which is here. And so we have the radial and ulna bone here meeting up with the humerus. This is the humerus. And we now begin to fill out the form of that front leg. Okay, so the form is not an outline. You got to try to see it as a three-dimensional shape that you're trying to bring to life. And the paper is flat, so we have to work harder at developing form because it's on a flat piece of paper. Okay, coming down here for the leg and the hoof, and it's a split hoof like a cow's hoof or a goat. Okay. The wildebeest is a really strange animal. To me, they remind me of a cross of a horse and a cow or something. And he's stretching that out opposite front leg forward. You see a little bit of that elbow. And this is the form. It's like a cylinder coming down to meet the carpals, which is a little wedge shape. It could even be done like a ball. There's the ospiciform bone. We're coming down, stretching that foreleg forward to the metacarpals. And then the digits, and they have two metacarpals that are bonded here like a single bone, and they split down here at the hoof. Okay, so there's the other hoof. Alright, I'm going to move that drawing over a little, and I'm going to come up and start laying in the hind end. So we've got the top line of the spine. We meet the pelvic bone. See that change? That's the caudal part of the pelvis, and it comes out towards us for the iliac crest of the pelvis.